it took you an hour and a half to figure it out, and then you had it working, and you had your network phoning you, or your other MCP system actually phoning you, and that really excites me. So this is going to be our worst attempt at it because it's our first attempt at it, right? So I think it's only going to get better, and I
Right.
think it's only going to get cheaper and faster and more available and more quality answers over time. Technology can break the chains of poverty. That can you can use your mind instead of your body, right? I was almost killed in that place. I can't tell you how many dangerous situations that you get into in an aluminum factory like that. A CD-ROM has never come shooting out at me trying to kill me, right?
That's something very abnormal to me because somebody who has spent 25 years in pure backend, pure networking, I I typically see dead souls. So awesome. Sounds good. So welcome everyone again to the fourth episode of The Root Cause. And we have a very interesting guest today in the podcast. I'm very excited. I'm truly very excited to meet him. I had one call with him last night and it went very well. And today I have him on the show to answer questions. I want to know him more, how he thinks about things. And yeah, let's start it.
Well, thank you so much, Priyank, and you've been so kind, and it really excites me. We were just talking before we started about how you saw something that I had done with Twilio. It took you an hour and a half to figure it out, and then you had it working, and you had your network phoning you, or your other MCP system actually phoning you, and that really excites me. So my name is John Capobianco. I'm the head of AI and DevRel for Itential. I've been in IT for about 25 years now, and this is actually celebrating my 25th year, and actually working for getting paid for I work in IT, and for the past, let's call it 3 years, almost 4 years. It'll be 4 years in December. I've shifted my focus not away from networks or network automation, but more towards artificial intelligence and seeing where the two might intersect, where this new technology and the new tool sets that have come out, and there's been a lot of them that have come out in the past 3 or 4 years, how they can apply to my field and my trade of network automation. I've happened to share this journey publicly. I've recorded every step of the way. I've made many GitHub repositories and posts and videos because I think it's important. I think we need to realize that we're literally in a new era, and this is at many layers. It's not just our industry that's going through this, or just network engineers that are going through this. It's everyone that's going through this. Society's going through this. Multinational corporations, governments, healthcare industries, manufacturing, agriculture, everywhere wants to embrace the power of artificial intelligence. And if we boil that down to what we do, or what I do, I think it's a very exciting time, really exciting time, and we should be enthusiastic, and we should be open-minded, and we should be flexible, but we've always adapted. In my 25 years, Priyank, I can't tell you the number of changes that the network industry's gone through. And I don't understand why some people don't see this as just another one of those changes. Like, we went from thick coax cables, right, that we put vampire teeth into bus systems, to category 5 cables and cat 6 cables and twisted pair, and then wireless came along, and then voice over IP came along, and then spine and leaf in the data center came along, and software defined networking came along with controllers. This is just, that's all this is another new capability and technology that I think we should really embrace and take advantage of.
I totally agree, John. And first of all, I'm so glad you're here and welcome to the root cause. Uh, Thank you for making it out today. I know you're a busy person, John. There's one other thing that excites me apart from your portfolio, your resume. Yesterday, I saw the spark in your eyes when you were describing the why do you love doing tech, right? And that's something very abnormal to me because somebody who has spent 25 years in pure backend, pure networking, I I typically see dead souls. So
Well, I thank you. I don't think it's unique to me. I think that I happen to be a very animated, lively, excited personality, and but this isn't a show or an act. Like it really, truly, this means something to me. Connecting with you in India right now, across the world, and sharing our ideas and having this conversation about where we are in the world. And but yes, I've experienced that. I see some people that have maybe lost the spark or lost the connection to what excited them about technology in the first place or networks in the first place. Um, I don't know that it's prevalent or that it's a lot of people, but yeah, certainly some people are jaded, or they've done this a long time, or maybe they didn't make the money that they thought they would make, or they didn't have the influence they thought they would have, or they look back and it's all ephemeral. Those networks they built have been replaced. They get replaced, and new people come along. And what is your legacy? What are you leaving behind? There's a lot that goes that there's a lot of emotion connected to our job, right? And what we do for a living, and pride, and I hope there's some pride involved. um, I happen to be fortunate that I did work very hard, and got to work in some very exciting environments. I got to work in the realm of insurance and finance, running a network there for about 5 years, and then the Parliament for 8 or 9 years, and then some time at Cisco, and then at some time at Selector, and now Itential. So I've been very fortunate, and I've worked very hard to get these opportunities, and it's hard not to be excited for me. Because I can remember when I was a young man, like I can remember what it took for me to get here, and things I've gone through in my life and endured in my life to get to this opportunity where I get to build AI agents. I'm working with artificial intelligence. Like that should make you excited and happy. And it's so remarkable, the models that come out, and the new frameworks that come out, and the human ingenuity that we figured out ways to augment these AIs, and attach these AIs to network infrastructure now, right? I think we should be excited. And the other thing is, I don't think that my message would resonate as well if I didn't express it with the emotion that I do. I really want to connect with people. I'd like people to perk up and pay attention and listen. And through the camera, and this is something that I learned actually just recently recording with Google. Um, you lose about 10% of your energy through the camera. Like when people are watching this back, there's something lost in translation versus human emotion and connection. So you do have to turn it up a bit. If
yeah,
you want to if people want to pay attention to your YouTube content, if I'm not excited about it, why the hell would anyone want to listen to it or pay attention to it, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if the person expressing the ideas isn't at least excited or enthusiastic about it, then why would people pay attention in the first place, right?
absolutely. Yes, I totally agree to that. John, you mentioned your career journey. You worked at Parliament, you worked at Cisco, you worked a lot of places, and it's very exciting. Yesterday, you mentioned something very weird. You started your career with in an aluminum factory. How was that? How did that come to be?
Well, yeah. So I was a very young man, and I found myself on academic probation from university in Ontario. So I went to Queen's University for a year, and ran afoul there a little bit, and ended up on probation from school. And then I was working retail in a mall, making minimum wage, and I was able to get into the aluminum factory in my hometown. and get into the production line and the union there. So I really needed that because I had to pay off my student loan and get an apartment and all that other stuff. So I I worked 12-hour shifts, and I can remember the rotation because it was Monday, Tuesday day shifts, so 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday and Tuesday, and then you'd have Wednesday, Thursday off, and then you would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday midnights. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. for 3 nights in a row. Then you get Monday, Tuesday off and work day shifts Wednesday, Thursday, have the weekend off, and then switch the rotation again. And that was it. You'd go in there for 12 hours and you'd help run aluminum. And it was dangerous work. We had gloves and steel toe boots, sometimes helmets. I drove forklift for a while. I worked on what was called a tension leveler. So that was my job, was working on machines like that. And after about 2 years of that, I really, I was only 22 when I decided to go back to school. I worked there for 5 years. And my last 3 years, I went to community college. So I made arrangements with the union and the company to give up my week of day shifts. So for 3 years, I would go to school from 8 to 4, and then I'd go to the factory from 4 to 12, or from 12 to 8 at the factory, and then 8 to 4 at the school. So I have a very serious appreciation. Yeah, well, when people ask me why I'm so excited about this, is because I'd like other people, maybe outside of the industry, to hear my story, that you can go back to school, that you can change the trajectory of your life, that technology can break the chains of poverty, that you can use your mind instead of your body, right? I was almost killed in that place. I can't tell you how many dangerous situations that you get into in an aluminum factory like that. But a keyboard, a CD-ROM has never come shooting out at me trying to kill me, right? Like a keyboard has never malfunctioned in a way that would physically injure me, right? So I take my what I earned through that I earned the right to work in a maybe a different class of job, to transition from physical labor in an aluminum factory to IT work and network engineering. I take that very seriously. That's very important to me. The diploma and the skills I learned as a programmer. Now it's funny. I only took one semester of networking during that 3 years. All the other courses were related to anything from COBOL and KICS and JCL to it was VB6 at the time.
You liked computers beforehand, then, right?
I grew up with computers. Absolutely. We had a bulletin board system when we were kids. My brother and I, we got a computer very early in life. We were obsessed with the computer. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent on a computer, honestly, like from the age of 8. It's about 40 years of using and always doing cool things with computers too. Like even at a young age, we built a bulletin board system. And I don't know, that probably predates you. Did you ever dial into someone's computer?
I did not. I started with direct cables from telephone lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at early days, before the internet, before the World Wide Web, you could install software and set up your computer with a dial-up modem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people could phone your computer with their modem. And they could play games on your computer. You could share files with them. You could interface with them and chat with them. So that was a precursor to the internet. And my brother and I had a very, very popular one. We actually had 2 phone lines at one point in time at the peak of the BBS craze. We had a high-speed line and we had a regular line, and you had to be a subscriber for the high-speed line. It was so yes, I've always grown up with computers and with technology, and artificial intelligence, to me, it just feels, like I said, it feels like just another the latest innovation in this
The
trajectory
journey. Yes.
of compute and storage and networking. Memory and compute and graphics cards and all these things have led us to this new innovation, right? And I still don't understand the psychology behind anyone that still is not convinced. Do you have any insight into that, Priyank? You just had a discussion with someone that didn't like the term vibe ops, for example. They had a visceral response to just the terminology of vibe ops. So
Just in my
you've talked
last,
to people
yes.
on both sides of the scale. What do you think is what it is?
Yes, John. So just in my last podcast, I had Randy Bass, and it was a very interesting call. And he's a great man. He I loved the talk with him. But interestingly, so I know you because first of all, I thought last year I have coined the term vibe ops. I never knew that you already are maintaining a Slack channel and a community around it. So, uh, you know, this vibe ops is something where I and you also engaged on LinkedIn, right? And this is something which I presented on a panel, CNCF panel, uh, just a couple of weeks back, and I got Randy's comment on my post. Like he was very reluctant on adopting the term vibe ops. He's so afraid of nobody should be vibing in the operations area. But when I spoke to him, his mindset and approach to automation, to AI, is much ahead of what new folks are thinking about. He is full on, hands on. Operations should be automated. This is not something humans should be doing. This is the task of a labor, should not be done by humans, right? So he is full on agreeing to the point at which the vibe ops uh, resonates about. It's just that maybe he doesn't like the term, or maybe he likes now.
Well, I did watch the episode, and I have the utmost respect for Randy. He coined some legendary phrases in the industry we still use and we still adhere to, and I completely agree with his sentiment that all of this stuff should be automated. It's been my message since probably 2015. I don't know when I started automateyournetwork.ca, but I've been very much banging the drum that networks need to be automated and that there's multiple ways to automate them. Now I think people can skip to the front of the line. And here's what I mean by that. The barrier why so many networks are still not automated is because people need to learn either a domain specific language or Python, pure Python, and they're trying to maintain their network certifications. They're trying to learn about EVPNs and BGP and VXLAN and IPv6. There's already enough in the field of networking to learn and to master. Now we've asked these poor people, and I've asked some of these poor people, to also learn how to develop software or program or write scripts or write Python or Ansible or Terraform or use the cloud and use Python and REST APIs and Postman and Git and GitHub. Do you understand where I'm going with this? It's
Yes,
not in
yes,
their classic traditional lanes of certification paths and trees, expanding their skills and being certified along the way. Yes, there is certifications for this automation stuff, but it takes anywhere between a year to 3 years to 5 years to like I'm still learning Python. I still wouldn't consider myself a good Python programmer. Even all the PyATS that I've written over time, right? And even though I've written 2 books about this, and a lot of other people have contributed massively to this idea, the Network Automation Forum, what Chris Grundeman and Scott Robon are doing, a forum for network automation discussion, an actual event twice a year. Why don't we see adoption? So back to the point of skipping to the front of the line. Now I can use my massive brain of networking knowledge and domain specific powers and creativity and knowledge, and ask an agent to write code for me, or ask an agent to help me automate something, or have an agent write that YAML file or that markdown file or that Python file. It's all abstracted now, right? And when you have agents in between, when I can just say to the agent, hey, agent, in some complex network question, right? And the agent says, let me fetch the data. I'll use MCPs and I'll use skills and I'll go get all the information. So I'm not making things up. And then I'll answer your serious question with a serious answer. That's as high a grade as the expert or novice asking the question. There's a spectrum here, right? Juniors might know a certain amount to ask it, and experts are going to know that much more to ask it and interrogate it. So we can jump to the front of the line. I think our new job as network engineers is managing agents. It's not managing infrastructure anymore.
I
There's
think
a layer between us now,
this is
right?
for all the departments that we had earlier, because even in operations, your uh, on call, your incident management, your automations for DevOps, everything can be automated now. uh, People are no longer required to put in that manual labor, because these are very grunt work tasks. I personally feel infra should be self sufficient. It should come to you when it has a problem with a particular root cause and everything detected. This is the action human needs to take. I had this problem, and that's what I tried to solve. So I think things are turning around, John. It's just that you know you have spent 25 years doing the same thing over and over again, and it becomes a very difficult for people to come out of that mindset. I think that's one of the reasons people are a bit reluctant on making this transition, making this jump.
And that makes sense. The history involved and the I don't want to say sunken cost fallacy, but I am optimistic. I see more and more every day people making uh, extraordinary projects that involve artificial intelligence. Everyone's making amazing dashboards. They're making amazing ways to ingest telemetry. Um, I'm really excited about what's going on right now. We talked earlier in the preview about how I think MCP, that model context protocol, has led to a Cambrian period, an explosion in innovation, because now we can plug this simple USB-like key into an agent and just ask the agent natural language questions. There's been an explosion in MCP in just the past month, 6 weeks in my industry, in network automation or networking. I don't want to name everyone because I'm going to miss some, but some major companies have started to introduce their own MCPs. Some companies have offered it maybe behind you have to have a certain level of licensing with them, all the way to just here's our MCP, it's free, use it, right? So, model context protocol is very exciting. I think skills layered on top of it is even more exciting. And a lot of people ask me the difference, or do we still need MCP? Can't we just plug skills into APIs and things like that? I would suggest that MCPs are like the keys on the piano and the piano itself. They're the tools, right? So the MCP server might be the piano, and the individual tools are the keys. The skills is the ability for the LLM to read sheet music,
Right.
right? And that sheet music is going to be your prompt. I'd like to hear a song that has a lot of tempo with high notes and some bass and whatever. You know what I mean? Like the skill is
I
going to say,
like
okay,
I like
here's
the
here's the
analogy.
here's the sheet music that I have, and MCP, here's how to play the. I'm going to play those tools, press those individual keys on the keyboard. I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but
I like the
the,
analogy, John. This is wonderful. I am a musician by the way. So
so you sort of get it, right? Like the guitar and the strings are the MCP and the tools, and the ability to play a song would be expressed in a skill file, right? You might have Eleanor Rigby markdown, and in that
how
markdown
about
file,
this?
you're
The recent thing I was reading about in one of the Anthropic blogs is, instead of using MCPs, and because it bloats a lot of context window of the
it
agents, right?
does, yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
So is use skills with CLIs, with scripts. Would that be a better approach?
That is a good approach as well. I do like running scripts or CLIs or REST APIs. I mean, if there's you have two options, right? If you find a nice Swagger document or open API document, you can write a skill against it directly and
Yeah.
use traditional get, CRUD activities. Or you could say convert this to a fast MCP server and abstract away those APIs. I think it's a little bit more intelligent with MCP because you can group various collective APIs together. Like it's sort of there's an aggregate effect sometimes. I'm not saying convert every single get, post, put, delete directly to an MCP tool. I mean, that's an approach. It's a little clumsy. You'd rather have the AI, intelligently make your fast MCP server to consume those APIs a little bit more intelligently. So there is there. I think there's an advantage to MCP still, but yes, what I like about your approach, what you described, is the determinism.
Yeah.
So what I'm describing is more reasoning based. Let the LLM reason and pick the tools to run and achieve the task. What you're describing is a little bit more deterministic, and I think maybe more appeal in the networking world. Or if I
I
have an
think
Ansible
this
playbook or a
resonate.
Python script, yeah,
Yeah, this resonated me because I'm more into operations, right? Operation side of things. I think networking included in the same domain requires a lot of deterministic approaches. You so what I heard uh, recently was if you give a hammer to somebody, everything else looks like a nail, right?
yes,
So
yes,
instead of solving everything with AI, we have been doing a lot of automations prior to this AI, right? So
right.
why not build smart or intelligent triggers? Randy was also talking about it. Why not build intelligent triggers and have AI reason and pick those triggers, and then that runs a deterministic code or some kind of mechanism to do a task.
Yeah, I think I love the mix of the two, right? So we can build React agents that we can build React agents that can reason and take action, and that action is tool calling. Now that tool calling doesn't have to be MCP. It can be any of the, I don't want to call them legacy, but it could be REST APIs. It could even be netconf, restconf. It could be Ansible playbooks, Terraform, Ansible, or Python scripts. I love it. I love the mix of the two, right? So it depends on, like, do I want to? So what I like about the non-determinism is the LLM with those deterministic scripts are the edge cases. So the problem with the deterministic script is that you have to come to every determination, right? Like if this fails, 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 right? Like you really have to consider that whole idempotent pipeline in your script. What I like about LLM's ability is that if it gets a 404, you don't have to write the edge case for the error. It will go, well, what, maybe it's the URL I'm using is wrong, or maybe I need to back off and try again, or maybe it's a rate limiting thing. It will reason and figure that out. So the mix of having your, deterministic A to B to C to D script with that LLM to handle those edge loop cases that you don't have to write anymore, right? I think that's what's accelerating people is the ability to write deterministic scripts without being held up with every single use case, every single error, every single possibility. Let the
Yeah.
LLM handle those cases when they occur, right?
I
Yeah,
think
it's a
so.
brilliant, it's a
One
brilliant
more thing.
approach.
Yeah, one more thing that agents can do, John, is write scripts themselves, right? So if something is being repeated, every time you have to turn on a switch on a router, then that's a very redundant task that every time the agent is doing via multiple MCP calls. So instead of that, it could come up with a script that does four tasks and then trigger that script occasionally whenever required. So I think a hybrid approach would be like this: a dynamic script, a dynamic deterministic script that gets generated automatically whenever something is redundant.
Yeah, I think I think the ideas are infinite, right? Like I think that's what I love
Yes.
about technology
It is.
right now is that we
It's.
can.
I often say AI is like a programming language. It's upon the programmers how to utilize it. Uh, Nobody has given us a rule book on, because
Right.
people who built AI also don't know how to use it properly, right? It's an
I love
engineering
that.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of been my sort of approach. And what I love is that I'm rarely let down when I think to myself, here, let's just take this phone thing, for example, right? Like, okay, in theory, there's an MCP for Twilio, and there's even skills for Twilio. could I add those to NetClaw? Could I set up a Twilio account with the introductory $10 they give you to make some calls? And could I let bidirectionally? So, like, could I actually say NetClaw can phone me if it detects something worthy of a phone call? And that's sort of the spec I built. And can I phone a number and talk to my NetClaw to get have it run things and get information back through my phone? That's a thought exercise. That's it. That sounds like science fiction 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I built an SDD, a spec driven development using the spec kit from GitHub. All the specs are in the NetClaw code, so you can actually read all the specifications that went into building the Twilio integration. And within, let's call it, be fair, 2 hours, I was receiving and making calls from an agent that is connected to my network. I was actually able to say, how many CML labs do I have? And it said, here's the 3 CML labs you have. Can you turn on CML Lab 2? And it turned on CML Lab 2. Now that CML Lab 2 is on, can you help me understand the topology? It has router 1, router 2, switch 1, switch 2. It knew that 3 of the PCs were turned off because of licensing. I'm talking to CML through my agent, of course, but I'm using, like I'm actually talking to it and it's answering me in natural language. So imagine being able at anywhere at any time phone a number and say, hey, what's this, is everything all right with the network? Or like a status update, right? There's some big change going on or you're working through some issue. Call a number and say, hey, is the issue resolved? Give me a status update of what's going on. Or it call you, right? 3 a.m, some malicious traffic is detected on your network or some critical link fails. You'd like to know as soon as possible, right? It used to be the NOC that did this. I worked with NOCs my whole life. I had a pager. I had 2 pagers at one point because there was 2 different organizations that needed to be able to contact me. So that's all this sort of is. But instead of just picking up a pager that says, major problem, get into the office right away, or whatever they could fit on the pager message, right? I can take a phone call from the network right away that says, hey, John, the link to Toronto just went down. Do you want us to open up a ticket with the ISP? Do you want us to get further investigation? And I can just talk to it. It's not a person. It's always there. It can go. I don't know. Am I crazy about this? Like, does this resonate with you, being able to phone your network? Like, am I insane? Does this sound like, really though? Tell me. Be honest with me, Priyank. Say to me right now, no, like you've lost it, John. This is too much.
See, I love one thing about you, John. I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier, and you were so excited to tell people regarding, go to Gemini, build an application. It can do this. You can build a website. I was so fascinated. Like, people who are very new to the space are not aware. For me, it might be like, okay, yes, I can do that, I already know it, so it may not seem very exciting for me because I already have felt it once, right? But for
Right.
somebody who's very new, this enthusiasm is something that will drive them crazy, and they will come and start, taking it out. So thanks for doing that, by the way, John. Yeah.
Well, like I said, I've been having a lot of fun with this NetCloud project. In the
Yeah.
VibeOps forum, we kick around ideas. We tied it into Twitter, and it's actually able. I'm actually able to kick off work. So I said in a tweet, can I get a mind map of my CML environment? And I sent that
Okay.
tweet, and the NetClaw sent a reply to that tweet with an image of the CML and a mind map for me within a couple seconds through Twitter. I'm able to talk to my network through Twitter. Now, why would you ever want to do that? Would you do that in production? Probably not, but it's a fun art of the possible home lab kind of thing. Imagine your home lab being able to send tweets to your home lab or whatever. Now, imagine if I could say through a tweet, I'll be home in 20 minutes, turn on the lights, open the garage door and put on The Sopranos on the TV with a smart home. And I don't know, who knows, right?
It opened up a multi-channel way of interface with your systems, right? uh, Earlier it was just a remote control that you would use to turn on or off TV. Now it's much more than that. You can literally talk to your television now, right?
Right, right.
And this is what I started with, John, in Rubik's Cube as well. The first feature that I built was talk to your infra. I Let me
Cool.
see if I
Cool.
have this. Do you see this?
Yeah, talk to your
Yeah.
infra. Hey, I have to get you one of my stickers. You need my face on your laptop. So you know what I think the next switch is? You are in the modem generation between pre and post AI,
Mhm.
right? The
What does
millennials
post AI
actually.
look? What does post AI look like to you, John?
Well, I'm just saying that there's going to be a generation that are born into a world that's post AI, and AI is in everything and everywhere, right? So history repeats itself. Like I went from analog to digital to AI late in my life, whereas you started in digital to AI. There's going to be a generation that's born in AI, and what's after AI? Maybe quantum. What's the next big thing that we break or figure out, right? So post AI, I see it absolutely everywhere, Priyank. Like I see absolutely everywhere across humanity, much like the World Wide Web. So every company that has a website today is going to have an agentic system. They might have hundreds of thousands of agents instead of a single website. Hospitals, agriculture, manufacturing, all the places we talked about, all the different finance, trading, everything is going to rely on agents. Humans are going to start to rely on agents, much like we rely on honeybees, like we rely on our automobiles, much like we rely on our cell phones and our televisions. We're going to come to have a reliance where tokens are a new currency. Tokenomics is a real thing. Open source models, private models, Chinese models, Japanese models. That's the post AI world is keeping up with the latest model. The physical manifestation of AI is coming. I was around at Google Next. I was near some of those Boston Robotics dogs. Have you
Yeah.
seen those? Do you know what I'm talking
Yes.
about? I was 2 feet away from one, and it gave me the creepiest feeling. Like I felt like I needed to run away. I had a real fight or flight sensation. Like it was really weird. Like I knew that that thing could kill me, and I would have no defense against it because of it's a strong robotic dog. Like how would you stop that, right? So anyway, that was kind of neat. But yeah, the physical manifestation. I hope it leads to things like augmenting the life experience for people with disabilities, for the blind, for the physically impaired, for the deaf, for the hearing impaired, for the aging population, for the young children. Like I was reading Bill Gates a while ago. He said that AI is going to help humans become literate by the time they're the age of 3.
Yes.
Imagine the advancements in humanity if that holds true. If our literacy moves from 5 or 6 or however whatever the average age is now to 3, because we can give our children access to this AI that will teach them how to read and be literate. Imagine the compounded interest on that over time, that the human race has started to be able to read younger and younger, and that people have access to infinite knowledge at their fingertips. Why is the sky blue? Do you know how many parents are tortured by that question by their children? Well, now
Yes.
you can actually in their terms, help them understand it with an AI. I think that's part of it. I think we need to maybe set aside our ego and our hubris that we're still the dominant intelligent life form on Earth in terms of brain power. Like I would rather have an AI explain that to my niece or nephew than me try to explain it. I don't know. I mean, I sort of know why the sky's blue, but in terms of institutional, generational knowledge, wouldn't it be great to be able to teach our children truth, science-based facts about things? Right? Imagine that impact around the world. And I don't mean to get religious or political here, but why do you think the Pope has come out against AI? Because AI is going to be the final thread that breaks and gets rid of the foothold of religion around Earth. Because the AI is going to give us science, atheistic based answers, right? They're not trained on religious data, right? So
I
I
mean,
think that
they
is
are
a threat,
partially,
right?
they are partially, John, by the way.
Are they? Well, that's unfortunate. Maybe I need to train a new model that's purely
We do need
atheistic.
to. There's one question I would like to come to, John. Is do you think so? You are very optimistic about uh, the potentials and the hopefulness that I see with you is with AI. Do you think we have reached the zenith of the development, or do you think this LLM thing is going to be the end of AI evolution or something else?
Well, I mean I try to look at the patterns in history, and this is going to be our worst attempt at it because it's our first attempt at it, right? So I think it's only going to get better, and I
Right.
think it's only going to get cheaper and faster and more available and more quality answers over time. I don't think we've reached the zenith. Um, because then the next thing will come out, right? There will be improvements on this. The other thing is like the US government has asked OpenAI to not release ChatGPT 5.6. Why would they do that? What, like, is it so powerful and so capable that the governments of the world are asking the AI, companies now to not release models? I mean, think of that. Is it because it's that powerful that the governments of the world don't want us to have it yet? Um, so I still here's one thing I do, Priyank, and I mean this. I do this every week to start my week. I search for Google. I do a Google News search for AI cancer, news or
Research.
AI cancer research or AI cancer breakthroughs. I do that once a week, and I've done that for a while now. And some of the things I read are so hopeful and so optimistic. I to make it a little more personal, I had a colonoscopy done not too long ago, and apparently, while I was under the drugs, all I could ramble about was artificial intelligence. So the nurse told me after I had kind of, and I was fine, by the way. It was just it's a routine thing. Um, she said, actually, I did some research, and the results are being scanned by a private age AI, and false positives have gone down 70% since they implemented this AI to look at colonoscopy imagery, right? Yeah, like 70%. So she said that's 70 people out of 100 that were not telling them that they're positive for cancer, right? So whether or not it cures it, I don't, obviously that would be ideal. But what if it can help in those areas, right? Or make drastic improvements in prevention, or, uh, maybe not curing it, but helping remediate it. I don't know. I'm optimistic. So to do that, if AI has you down and all the doom and gloom bothers you about AI, try to search for positive news stories about AI. Try to find the helpers. Try to find the people that are trying to use this technology to save lives, to make life better on Earth, right? I mean, I'm doing what I can with network automation and engineering. I'm trying to use the tools to make that thing that we do a little easier, right? So I can only imagine, I hope there's people like me in other fields around the world trying to implement AI to make their field even better and more augmented and AI enhanced and all of that, right?
You touched upon very deep points, John, and I totally am aligned. I fully embrace the new tech, new developments in science, be it AI, be it quantum, anything that comes. Because if you do not embrace and restrain yourself from adopting new things, then you are in bad luck. That's all. Things will keep developing. There is no stopping that. It's just that how well are you going to adapt to it? And the more you push away yourself from it, the more time you will take to catch up to the next stages. I I liked your perception of just a small ritual, right? Every Monday, just go and search for cancer cures using AI, and maybe someday we'll have that.
Well, we can only hope so. Or natural disaster detection, or better mileage in our gas, anything to improve the human experience, to use this technology to to actually advance us forward and make, bring up the quality of life. And I like to think that, um, I know it might not seem that way for everyone on earth, and I know I'm very privileged where I am, but if you look at the numbers globally, right, poverty is down, uh, infant mortality is down, life expectancy is up, quality of life is up. I know it's hard to accept that, but statistically speaking, and more broadly speaking, right, women around the world have more rights than ever. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of positive things that we just take for granted, or don't really think about. I also like to walk my dogs in the forest and not think about AI at all. And not think about technology at all. I have a forest, uh, cross country skiing paths that are allowed to walk your dogs on in the summer. So I will contemplate a lot of this work just walking through the forest with the dogs. But I that's what else are we going to say, that it's going to be worse for humanity, that it's going to make life more difficult?
I
I
mean,
know that
see,
there's a lot of
getting, yeah, this, how do I phrase it? Being skeptic, being a bit concerned regarding what could be the implications is good, but straight away denying things is not at all, right? Uh, there are a lot of good things that are happening. We have to be safe, we have to be conscious about what new models are coming. Maybe they are very advanced, maybe it's a marketing gimmick, who knows, right? So things are like that. It's the judgment that we have to always take into consideration about anything that we develop. That's where I think the judgment of humans always will come in. This is, Randy was saying, for designers, for developers, the taste is something you cannot replace with AI. Same thing for operators is, you cannot replace human judgment. I think this applies for everything. This taste and judgment is some of the very innate human qualities that you cannot replace with AI, and this is something which will lead us forward.
well, I think some people have to experience it firsthand. I really do, and that's the biggest hurdle. That to me is the biggest hurdle, is taking that very first step. And I see it almost every day. People, celebrating their very first step. I just made a pull request to my first Git repo. I just did my first Git clone. I just integrated my first MCP server. Now, I really want to stress that for anyone watching this, if you haven't integrated an MCP server, I think you're falling behind. I think you fell behind. I think you need to do it. I think you need to try it. It will take you 20 minutes to integrate, say, the Netbox read-only MCP server. I've covered this publicly many times. Uh, you really need to do it. And you're going to see the light bulb's going to go off, and you're going to understand. And then I think your next step is going to be to find more MCPs that apply to your life and the tools that you use, right? Because you're going to be pleasantly surprised to find that there's likely an MCP server for the system that you integrate with and use every day. Your next step is to get approval or whatever you need to do, access to a local model or a company approved model, and connect that MCP to Claude Code, Claude Desktop, Copilot, Anti-Gravity, whatever it is you're allowed to use, Cursor, and you'll never look back. You'll look back and say, why did it take me this long to do this? I see what they're talking about now. Holy cow, is this ever powerful? I mean it. It's undeniable. I've yet to meet a person to try it and go, well, I'm going to do it the old way. Like, this is no good. You would be surprised though how many people have a mental block, and either they just, like I said, there's some hubris, there's some ego, there's some personal emotion, whatever it is that's holding them back. It's 20 minutes of your life to install an MCP server and try it. And I promise you reach out to me and tell me otherwise. Say, I tried it, John, and it took an hour or 2 hours instead of 20 minutes. That's not going to happen. And once I got it working, it was awful or terrible. That's not going to happen either. Like, it never ever happens, Priyank. You know yourself, right? You've seen people converted to this, and
Yeah.
and it's it's like flipping a bit from a 0 to a 1. You're augment yourself with AI. If you've tried ChatGPT and you got some bum answers, or asked it how many R's are in strawberry or whatever it is, that's not using AI. That's a toy. That's consumer garbage. That's just, you're skimming the surface if you've had a 20 minutes with a chat interface and it didn't go the way you think it did. rethink your position on AI. Really, though, really take a step back and reconsider using these tools. In a year, it's I don't know. It sounds silly to even say this in 2026. I still can't believe people aren't doing it this way all the time. Maybe in 3 years or 5 years
People
or two
take
years,
time
or
to
we're going to
adopt.
look back at this and laugh that we even had to encourage people to get started, right?
People take time to adopt, John, and the pace at which AI is moving is too fast for regular people to adopt. And that's the problem. That's the challenge I'm seeing. It's not that they don't want to. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I was at SRE day just last Sunday, last Saturday, in Bangalore, and I gave a talk on fear paradox for SREs. And I called it fear paradox because there are two fears. One is, if I don't adopt AI, I'm going to lag behind. That's a fear. So I must adopt it, right? For SREs and operators, another fear is, if I adopt AI, then there are a lot of problems. You cannot run it in production. There will be issues. Something may break. This is another kind of fear. So whether to choose it or not choose it, both are the fears that SREs have today. And this is where I broke it down why it's, the fear itself is a spec, a design spec, a PRD for what you need to build, right? And this is where I think the most important point was, the fear, the reluctance of adopting new things is just because of speed, because of that empty canvas feeling. Like you have an empty canvas and you do not know what first stroke should
What
be.
to paint? Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, I completely agree with that. Well, that's So you asked me a little earlier about my motivation, right? And
yeah,
I really would like my videos, in particular, my body of work, to help give people something like the Bob Ross experience, right?
yes.
So
I was
people
going
can
to
watch
talk about it.
they can watch the episode and watch me paint something and the mistakes. Bob Ross with the happy little mistakes. He
Yeah,
doesn't, edit that out. He leaves it in. He shows how to paint around it or how to correct the mistake. I'm not trying to say I'm Bob Ross or anything like that, but to your point of some people have a blank canvas and so maybe they could have their blank canvas and put me on in the background and try to replicate what I'm painting, right? Meaning, or their own inspiration. They can watch me build it and then go, I see, I get it. I'm going to apply what I just watched to my own project, to my own idea. And that's what excites me the most. It's
yeah.
it's it's the people that like yourself. What did you tie the phone into? What was the system you had mentioned?
Rubik's
Rubik's?
Cube.
Rubik's Cube,
Yeah,
right? I didn't do that. That was your inspiration and where you took the idea, right? That's what's exciting to me. And that's how these these neural networks of people and connections and you know, I'm never going to forget this interview. I'm never going to forget meeting you and knowing that I've inspired you to build something and you'll likely show other people. And it's not about credit or ego. It's about community and feeling good about myself. And I get really good endorphins. I really get really good neural feedback when I hear people say you helped me or this was great or whatever, right? So that, I don't do it because of the money. It's not like I'm not one of the big, million subscribers or 70,000. I've got about 8,500 subscribers on YouTube. Um, I get a lot of people who do watch the videos, hundreds or thousands of views, which is incredible. And I thank everyone who supported me. But it's certainly not for likes or clicks or money that I do this. It really is it's more about legacy than anything. I'd like, when I retire or when people look back at my career or the industry that I've made some impact on it. I've had a small mark on it that people will say, oh yeah, he was the first guy to make a phone call to the network, right? Little things like that. That's what excites me. But in
it
terms of
is.
the way I've been building things, this is what excites me the most: is that you can be me. Honestly, I can't stress enough how empowering the new spec kit from GitHub is and Microsoft, and how powerful spec-driven development is. I need you to go and look at this, everyone, because you it's like Git in a way. It
Hmm.
will instantiate and you see, have a working directory, John's video game.
Okay.
You instantiate it for the spec kit, and that will bring down some templates and some other scripts and some things like that. Then you just follow the 6-step process. First step is a constitution. Second step is your specifications. There's an optional step of clarification to make sure that your spec and your constitution align, or that the LLM doesn't have any questions so far. Then you do spec kit plan. Then you do tasks. Finally, you do implement. Now, the first bunch of steps all create markdown files, your specifications. These are user stories. Priyank, you'd love it. You're going to love this because they're user stories, they're pass fail acceptance criterias, they're functional requirements, there's test cases. Everything is documented in Markdown. And ultimately, you get to your tasks, and it's X number of tasks. When you say implement, it builds your code, your Python, your Markdown spec, your Ansible playbook, your blog. Anything can be done this way. And what's neat is that when you want to look at my work and say, well, how did he build this? How did he come up with it? You can
Yeah.
look at the specs. You just read the specs. It's all in the Git, right? So then if I want to say add multiplayer to John's video game, I just start at the spec step. I don't need to make a new constitution. And it will track a new folder with all the artifacts for your second spec. So over the lifetime of a project, if all you do is spec-driven development, you're going to have a spec folder with every branch that reflects a spec that you've added to the code base. It is remarkable. I cannot say enough about this approach.
It
It's
is.
how I build NetClaw. So the
This,
Twilio
this is
thing,
one of the things that people in the industry, we have this term of knowledge transfer, right? I can do a lot of things, but I if I'm capable of training another person to do the same thing or maybe more advanced thing, in the process of how I do is very interesting. And the way you have explained, I'm just definitely gonna check it out. I think this KT thing, the knowledge transfer things, is automatically done now, right? You, however you did the operations, is automatically documented, and the next person can know about it, can rerun the same thing and get the same
right?
results.
Right. Well, you really are going to love it, and I think your listeners are going to love this approach if you haven't heard of it. Um, yeah, you've probably done TDD, right? Test driven development,
As driven, yes.
where you write a failed test and then you make the minimal amount of code to make it pass, and then you iterate and refactor, right? So if you've done TDD, you're going to love SDD even more. It's going to feel very close to your heart. It's
We covered a lot, John, and we talked about the excitement that you have, the hopefulness, uh, the enthusiasm that you are seeing in the industry with the changes that are coming in, with uh, the way humanity is driving forward. I think this is very inspiring. Your life journey itself is very inspiring, and I think I can categorize you at the this Bob Ross of the tech world. Uh, and this is going to be wonderful, John. This episode is very interesting. People are going to love it. Any message for my audience before we close it?
Yeah. So I mean what I say in that you can do this. If you listening or watching, install the spec kit, and here's a fun thing: make a video game about something you're learning. So if you're learning about OSPF, if you're learning about BGP, if you're learning about QoS, if you're learning about gardening, if you're learning about whatever, any topic at all, in your constitution, you're going to explain what to do and what not to do. And you're going to explain the guardrails, like the American Constitution. Think of it that way. You're making a constitution for this project. Your spec, you're going to say, I'd like to build a gardening video game that's educational to help me learn about weeds and plants and seeds and whatever. And you just go through the process. After you do /implement, you will get a working video game in your browser. I've done this. I've made solitaire. I've made network automation video games. Someone at Cisco Live made a hot aisle, cold aisle video game. Someone else made a BGP shooter. So you don't have to be a video game developer. You don't even have to be an expert in the topic. Use spec-driven development and build yourself a fun little video game. And also, feel free to reach out. Make sure you join Priyank and I in the VibeOps forum. We're always there to answer your questions and to explore ideas. It's an open, safe space. And Priyank, you've said some really kind things and really encouraging things to me today, and I really feel it, and it means a lot to me. And I look forward to the next time I'm on the show.
Absolutely, John. And thanks a lot for taking out the time. And thanks a lot for addressing my audiences. We'll catch up soon, John, whenever you are ready. Awesome. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.